just okay. Okay, Dom, for you and Kwesi, I really do appreciate you guys taking the time. I know that it's busy for you guys, and of course, you just mentioned that you just came off the field from training, and I appreciate that you guys rushed off to do this and get on the call with us. I also want to welcome the player Ryan, as well as the kids from Brampton Soccer Club with Joey. And as you know, a lot of us behind the scenes for the last year, the TDs have been working together on various things and so forth. And I think it's one of the best things that's happened, that when we have TDs that work together that are opening up doors and so forth. So I wanted to make sure that Ryan and Joey get the accolades of what they're doing in their club. And I thought this would be a great opportunity, you basically covering all of Ontario with the information you could give to the players tonight. The kids will have questions, and they can just raise their hands in the participating areas, and then they can ask the questions. And I'm going to leave it open for you guys. And I appreciate that Carleton is well represented. I was excited as soon as you guys responded to say that you guys would talk. More ecstatic, the fact that you guys are the only ones in Ottawa now. So I'm even much more happier to hear that. And so I want to make sure that you guys get to talk about yourselves, your school, your programs, and then just take it away with the kids on questions. And if at the end they don't have as many questions as they think, or they're a little nervous to ask you, then I might jump in. But it's been pretty good with me speaking a lot less than normal. So Dominic, Kwesi, thank you for coming. The show's yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. I'm just going to check. Kwesi's texting me. Kwesi, can you maybe just see if we can hear you, just to be sure? All right, Kwesi, I can't hear you. So can anybody else hear Kwesi, or is it just me?
No. He's going to let you start with the show.
Okay, I'm just going to text him. Yeah. Ask him to turn his mic on. We'll see what happens. So firstly, thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat with all the different players in your club. It's always a great honor when we are able to come out and give a little bit more information about what Carleton University has to offer. We kind of had a different approach. We were kind of just going to open it up to questions. I find when we speak on these things, we can get going and talk for hours, and that's maybe not as engaging with the players who are on this call. So we really want you to be engaged in this process. So I'll tell you a little bit about Carleton just to start, and then maybe we can open it up to some questions. So really quickly, so Carleton, we're located here in Ottawa. We're campus is just outside downtown. We're about 32,000 students on campus right now. So we're kind of like a mid-major university. So we're not too big, we're not too small either. We're kind of right in the middle. And our campus is really green. So we've got a lot of green space on campus. We've got a lot of places to sit, hang out. It's kind of it's not an urban campus, so we're not in the middle of downtown. There's no hustle and bustle on our campus, so it's a really relaxed kind of setting. So I'm going to stop right there just for a sec. Does anybody know kind of what programs Carleton is well known for academically? Does anybody have any clue? Has anybody done any research on Carleton at all?
They have a good journalism program.
Fantastic. Yep, journalism. Anybody else? Don't. We're very forward, so don't.
Journalism.
Okay, journalism. Anything else?
Like architecture and engineering.
Architecture, engineering, we're well known for. The other kind of key ones that a lot of I find student athletes are in right now, it's health sciences. We see a lot of athletes want to get into either physiotherapy or athletic therapy, so they go down our health sciences route. The other one that we're really well known for is actually our commerce program as well. And if you are thinking about going into commerce at Carleton, we're actually just in the process of finishing a brand new multi-million-dollar building on campus. So if you're looking at commerce at Carleton, it'll be a fantastic beginning in that new space. I'm going to just open it up to questions. Kwesi, I think, can hear us, but maybe his mic's not on. So we'll see if we can get that sorted out here in the next few minutes. But I can probably answer the majority of the questions on the men's side as well. So I think we see a couple hands up. So I think it's Adam. Is that you're up?
Yeah, hi, I'm Adam, and I play on the 06 OPDL boys team. And my question for you is, what sets you guys apart from other colleges and universities?
Academically or athletically?
We'll go athletically first.
Okay, so facilities, number one, I think, and how we treat our student athletes. I may be biased, but I think we have some of the best facilities in Canada. We have 2 outdoor turf training fields. We have an indoor training facility. Basically, everything that you could want as a student athlete is on our campus. One of the things that sets us apart is how we take care of our student athletes. So we have certified athletic therapists that work with all of our teams. A lot of universities, what they'll do is they'll have a head therapist and then have student therapists at training every day. We don't do that at Carleton. Every one of our team has a certified therapist at training at all games. We also have a sports med clinic on our campus that's pretty well known in Canada. We have some of the top sports med doctors in the country working at a Carleton. So if there's anything that happens beyond the scope of what our athletic therapist can deal with, then in the next building over, we have this amazing sports medicine team, and every team at Carleton is assigned a sports medicine doctor as well. Kwesi did have some photos of our facilities, so I'm not sure if Kwesi, can you maybe share your screen and maybe we can go.
Yeah, I think he jumped off and trying to log back in.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll wait for him. He was actually supposed to take the lead on the photos and stuff like that. I should know better than to leave him in charge of technology. But actually, I'll just pull them up if you don't mind, Dave. I'll
No
take
problem.
a second and grab them.
You comfortable with WebEx?
I am. I use it every day for work. We at Carleton usually use Teams, so that might be part of the issue. So I'm just going to download this. And as we're just waiting, the other thing I think that differentiates us from a lot of other schools is actually the support we get from our athletics director. Our athletics director, Jennifer Brenning, she is very, very engaged in sport. She sees the value in sport in an athletics community. I think you can kind of see that we invest in athletics at Carleton. So it's not an accident that we've won 15 national championships on the men's basketball side. We've won on the women's basketball side. Kwesi's team has been top 5 in the country for a number of years now. And I've only been at Carleton for a few years on the women's side, and we're actually rebuilding that side of the program to kind of equal what those other teams have done. And even our rugby team has been, in the top 10 in the country as well. And we regularly win OUA championships. So there's an investment that goes into that. And so that's part of the reason we've also been successful. As we're kind of waiting for me to load this up, does anybody have any other questions? I see one from Jonathan.
Hello, Coach. My name is Jonathan. I play on the 2006 CSL team. My question for you is, on the field in a game, what do you look for in a player?
All right, that's a great question. For me, my teams on the women's side, we like to play. We like to be in control of the ball. We like to possess the ball. We like to dictate the tempo of the game. Certain times in U sport, you'll find teams that are very direct, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not the way that we like to play at Carleton. Um, Even on the men's side, they like to possess, they like to play. So we're looking for very specific characteristics. You know, players that can solve problems. I think a lot of coaches say that, but can you solve a problem? The university game is fast, it's athletic. Can you solve the problem technically? Can you solve the problem tactically? So I think for both programs, we're looking for players that are intelligent, can solve problems, and technically can play. Um, and that's, I think Kwesi and I have actually coached together as well. So I think we have very similar philosophies in how we approach the game.
Can you hear me?
There he is.
There you are. What's going on?
Yeah. Sorry, I apologize, gentlemen. I do, and everybody on the line right now, and definitely
Thank
having
you.
some difficulties here. But I can see everybody. I've been hearing all the questions. I just couldn't chime in. So I will do the best that I can as I am speaking from my phone and watching everybody on the screen.
No worries, Kwesi. It's great to have you. I'm glad that you could get in.
Okay. So I'll let Dom continue. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to jump in and weigh on the men's side as well.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question, Dom. You and Kwesi have coached together. Why don't you let the players know where you guys have coached? Want to give them a little bit of a background on, they're getting a lesson on what it's like to be at university, but maybe to give them a bit of an idea that there's a false myth at all times that every coach that they're going to meet at the next level is a high quality coach. And I want them to understand the two of you and what your backgrounds are and at Carleton and why you should be at the top of their list for considerations.
Yeah, Quace, why don't you go first since we have you captured for a few minutes?
Yeah, I mean, can you still hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background on myself, just kind of where I'm from and where I am. Actually, I didn't grow up too far from Pickering. Actually, I grew up in Scarborough. I played for Malvern. I played for Wexford. I played for North Scarborough. So I'm very familiar with your landscape and the leagues out there. I actually moved to Ottawa for school, and since that time I've been living here and now coaching at Carleton University. But with regards to what players can expect from our program and what they can get out of it moving forward. Actually, Dave, do you mind just quickly repeating a little bit of the question? You kind of broke up there as you were saying.
Just to give them a little background, Kwesi, on you and Dom and your accomplishments of what you guys have done. I know that you were in Scarborough and with Malvern and so forth, but they wouldn't have known that, right? And so, but if you can elaborate on where you guys have coached and who you've coached, because I think that's going to have the most impact for them. Our careers, they're done. So it's a case of selling them now on what you're going to open doors to for them. And I know, but I think they need to know.
Yeah, fair enough. So I remember Dom had spoken earlier a little bit about, my position now. I've been here for the last 5 years now as the head coach. And since that time, Dom has come on board on our women's program. And a lot of what we've been working on together is, integrating a lot of the facilities and resources that we have on campus and within our athletics department to better our student athletes coming in. So as much as it is about the wins and the losses and the results from previous years, we try to more focus on what are the mechanisms that we have in place that can help our athletes achieve their ultimate goals. In some cases, it is to go professionally. In other cases, it is, potentially coaching. But we try to look at internally the resources that we have and how can we better prepare our student athletes for life after school. So in indicating that, I mean, I'm not sure if Dom has talked a little bit about the facilities that we have. I mean, we have 3 turf fields, 1 indoor that allows us to train all year round. So we do run a 6-month out of an 8-month academic year program. We are training, 5 times a week in regular season. We are training 3 to 4 times a week in the off season. And we do utilize our strength and conditioning coaches. We have full-time athletic therapists. We have a sports med clinic on campus as well. And the integration between all of our resources are very seamless. So in terms of opportunities for after school, I mean, on the men's side, I know Dom has mentioned it. I mean, we've been pretty successful the last 4 to 5 years, and because of that, we've had probably 4 to 5 players now drafted into the CPL, which is the new professional league here in Canada. Also, because of that, we also have 3 to 4 agents that we're currently in contact with on a regular basis. Whether it be for opportunities here within Canada or if it's for opportunities abroad. The other element that we also look to work with our athletes on is we also connect our athletes with our alumni, and from a networking perspective to help them navigate, life after graduation. So, if you graduate in architecture, can we identify one of our alumnus that has graduated from a similar program that can help you in your first step into that career path? So we try to look at our program as a very holistic, from beginning to end. We want to make sure that all your needs are addressed, and we do that by utilizing all of our resources.
Kwesi's trying to be very modest, I think, as well. If you don't buy Kwesi, Kwesi's been, I think, National Coach of the Year, Provincial Coach of the Year. He's won a ton of awards as the head coach of the men's program. So obviously a very knowledgeable soccer guy, and actually played at Carleton as well. So he's a little bit of a celebrity, we'll say, on campus, right, Kwesi, when it comes to soccer. But from my end, my background is actually coaching with the Ottawa Fury women's team. So you're probably too young to know this, but Ottawa Fury had a W League team and a PDL team, which, in my opinion, was a much higher standard than what League One today is, just because there was a lot less teams. There was only 6 teams between Hamilton and Quebec City. And so it was kind of the best of the best in those regions playing. So I was with the program for 6 years as an assistant coach. I was the head coach of the program for 4 years. We won a North American Championship in 2012. We finished second in 2011 and third in 2014. And when I mentioned that Kwesi and I coached together, Kwesi was part of my coaching staff in 2012 and 2011 when we finished first and second in North America. So there's a couple of players that you may recognize their names that we've coached through that program. So comes to mind Ashley Lawrence, Kadisha Buchanan, Shalina Zadorsky played for us. And we had 100 players that played internationally for their countries that actually came through the Fury program in the 10 years that I was there. So I've been very fortunate in my soccer kind of coaching career to great opportunities with some world-class players. And that's kind of how we run our program at Carleton. Whether it's the men's or the women's side, it's a very professional environment. We treat you like professionals because that's kind of our background as coaches.
So Dom, do you want to tell them about the number of players on your roster, or just you can leave that and get the kids who are online that want to ask a question and go from there?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with some questions. Does anybody have another question? Jonathan, do you have another question, or is that the original question?
So you guys talked about the 5 players went on to the CPL, right? What connections do you have to the CPL league?
It's a good question. What's been very positive about the relationship with the CPL coaches is that they're in continuous contact with us. Well, with me in particular, I can speak to that. So, I speak with the coaches regularly throughout the year, identifying players not only from my own program, but from across the OUA, so other Ontario universities. So they're really interested in bringing along Canadian talent, Canadian kids from Canadian universities. So from a communication perspective, they're always observing, they're always evaluating, they're always asking for game tape. So they are very engaged in the process, and not just during the draft period or not just when they're in season.
Okay. Zach, do you want to ask a question?
Hi, Coach. My name is Zach Landry. I play for the 2006 boys CSL team, and my question is, what are the academic requirements to play for your guys' team?
So, academically, I always start off by saying, the better grades you have is always going to be, better for you, just in terms of selections for universities or entering any university of your interest. But in terms of, for us particularly, it does depend upon the program that you're interested in. So, for example, a Bachelor of Arts, which could be anything from a law degree, political science, and entrance marks for that are roughly about a 70% average. But as you get into engineering, architecture, journalism, more of the specified programs, you are looking at upwards of 80%, 85%, depending. Is that clear? Yeah.
Dave, I think you're on mute.
If you're muted.
Ms. Doyle, do you have a question?
Yes. Hi, my name is Kiva Doyle. I play for the 08 girls team. And my question is, what advice would you give to the youth players who want to stand out when they reach the university level?
Yeah, that's a question I don't get asked very often, so that's a great question. I think for me, especially through the recruiting process, I think coaches are always looking for different things. So what I may value may be different than other coaches. So I think, really try to be true to what your game is as a player, and try not to be something different. If you are a great 1v1 player and that's your strength, then that's how you stand out as a player, right? If you're great in possession or whatever the skill may be, then that's the thing that will get you to the next level. Right? So we don't like to see players trying to change their game or adapt their game through the recruiting process. We want to see you how you are and what makes you the special player that you are, and that's, to me, what makes you recruitable or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hader, do you have your question?
Hi, coaches. My name is Hader Fauzi. I'm on the U16, U17 OPL team. First off, I'd like to thank you for coming on and talk to us. And my question is more specific to the men's coach. And you had great players going to CPL, like Christopher Malkus and Gabriel Baitar. How has your philosophy and your coaching got them to the next level?
Wow, that's a great question. I think what's interesting to note is the type of players that we see that comes into the university. Like Don was alluding to earlier on, there's a big range of players that come and go into our program. So for example, I know you mentioned Gabriel Baitar, and he was the number one draft pick in the initial draft, I guess back in 2018. But you don't see Gabby right now playing in the league, right? And now you see a Chris Malakos who comes in and is a very different player than a Gabby Baitar, very, very much more of a hard-nosed center back, great work ethic, and he gets drafted. So, what we tend to do with players as they come in is we look at their characteristics, and depending on what their ambition is, we try to shape them and mold them, within their characteristics and personality. I try not to change players too much. I mean, the idea of me recruiting you is because I like you. I like you as a person. I like you as a player. I like your characteristics. I'm just trying to enhance it. So my job and my role is to simply expose you to different ways of thinking about the game, different ways of playing the game within a structure, within a philosophy. And I feel like players that can adapt and show the ability to adapt in different environments are the ones that potentially go further in the game, right? So I would never think that I'm here to change a player, but rather just enhance your inherent characteristics that you already have.
Okay. Victoria, do you have a question?
Yeah, my name's Victoria. I'm the goalkeeper for the League One reserve team. And I was just wondering what you guys think your biggest weaknesses on the teams and what you're looking to do to improve.
Oh, Dom, good luck with that.
That's a
Good question. That's a
Um,
good one.
You thought we were going to give you easy questions, eh?
well, I know you too well, Dave, to expect that. But so I think, with any program, especially in ours on the women's side, is we're always growing and evolving. And things are always changing within the program, whether it's resources or how we want to play, players we're recruiting. Um, so for us, it's hard to pick a weakness. Carleton's been fantastic. I mean, our facilities are amazing. The support we've had from our athletic director has been phenomenal. The staff we have is probably some of the best in the country. So for me, I wouldn't change anything about the program that we're running. I think, there's a cycle you go through. Like we have a little bit of a younger team than Kwesi's right now. So, our learning curve on what it takes to be a university player and a university student athlete is maybe a little bit bigger than Kwesi's. And as a coach, we would want to close that gap a little bit. But other than that, there was nothing I would change about the program we're running.
Okay. Sam, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, my name's Sam Kasky. I play for the 2005 boys OPDL team. How does a player go about being recruited?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it's always different from program to program, but particularly for us, I mean, the way I look at the process is if we are an interesting program for you, both academically and soccer-wise, then you would contact us directly via email. Just kind of expressing your interest, your position, what year you're in high school, what year you're graduating in, position you play, and obviously you would look to accompany that with a highlight tape, right? Just to kind of get pique our interest and see what you're about. Now, what I would normally do from there is I would contact you directly, via email, just expressing my interest, in the position that you're looking to fill, and then kind of request a little bit more game film from you, or obviously, once we get through this pandemic, actually come out and see you in person. So whether it be at one of your games, at a training session, or one of the many combines that are hosted, in the province. If that is not possible, then I would definitely look to get a full game tape from you so that you can evaluate further, right? Because we like to see players, over 90 minutes as opposed to just simply the highlight tape or your best half. But once we get that information, then we kind of go back and forth a little bit more on finances. We talk to your parents a little bit more about the reality of you actually moving to Ottawa, what accommodations you would require, and how we can support that. So, I always commend clubs such as yours and Dave for bringing coaches on to such calls like these, because you're starting so early, and I think it's fantastic. I mean, I think it's great that you're getting the information at such a young age, so you can start to navigate, the process. Because it is a long one. I'm not going to lie about that. It can be a long process, but you should enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could just add something, just a little piece of advice. We get a lot of emails as coaches. We get multiple emails a day. And for a lot of my colleagues, they've been doing this for a long time. I'm kind of one of the newer coaches in the league at 3 years, but some of the coaches in the league have been doing it for 20 or 25 years. And we're really good at recognizing kind of copied and pasted emails that are just kind of form emails. So, hey, coach, I'm really interested in your university. Here's some information on me. My piece of advice to every kind of group that I speak with is, try to customize that email to the school. Because our tendency as coaches, because we don't have a lot of time, is if we see kind of these copy and paste emails that kind of we feel are being generated over and over again, we don't spend as much time looking at those. At least I don't. I want a player who's genuinely interested in coming to Carleton versus someone who just is looking to go to university anywhere. And so if you could, personalize it, hey coach, I'm really interested in this program at Carleton. Here's a little bit more about me as a player. That goes a long way than just copying and pasting and sending out like 100 emails.
I'm going to ask a question to the both of you before Dante gets to ask his question. So, Kwesi, when's the last time you got a recruiting letter that was handwritten?
Not in my 3 years here at Carleton, and I was at Algonquin 5 years before that, so never.
Yeah,
Kwesi,
I get
you're
what you're
here?
saying.
So
Never.
what would happen if a player wrote a handwritten paragraph to you to introduce themselves and then followed up with an email? Would you respond to that more favorably, or would it be just another one in the pile? Because you're trying to explain to them that they've got to stand out of the pile that you're going to get.
Yeah,
Personally, I think it'd be refreshing. It'd be different. It'd be outside the box. I'd be very interested to see who took the time to send me this letter and what kind of person, right? So I'd be very interested to know about that person, for sure.
Or how about even a postcard with some information on the back, and then have it sent to you, and then follow it up with an email of more information. So I'm glad that I get to ask that question, because I'm trying to change the culture, and I have to tell you that the kids are the ones that are really helping change the culture at the club. And part of it is for them to start to understand that we're looking at them as people, and to help them get to the next level. Soccer is not going to be everything to everybody, but being a person that can leave a legacy of their own and leave a footmark in life, that we can go forward. So that was just two of the things that I wanted to bring out to you guys, to see if that would be of an interest to you, and maybe that sparks an interest in someone online. Dante, do you want to ask your question?
Hello, my name is Dante. I play for the 06 DRSL boys team. And my question is, what is the entrance rate for the athletic program?
What is the entrance grade? Is that what you're asking, Dominic?
It's Dante, and yes.
Dante, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so the entrance grades coming into Carleton are, again, dependent upon the program that you're applying to, right? So if it's business, it differs from sciences, which differs from engineering. I would definitely say engineering, chemistry, areas like that. Those are definitely at the higher GPA levels to enter school. You look about 80%, 85%. But like a Bachelor of Arts, those are definitely a little bit lower and can range anywhere between 65 and 70%, roughly around there, depending.
Yeah. So ultimately, you have to get into your academic program of choice academically. There's nothing we can help you with. You could be the best player in the world, and if you don't have the grades to get into the program at Carleton, then there's nothing we can do to help you get in.
Okay. Antonio.
Do you have any like academic support, or like maybe tips to keep up with the academics and athletics?
Yeah, so we have sorry, go ahead, Kwesi.
Go ahead, Don. No, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of academic support at Carleton. So part of Kwesi's role is actually to track all of our student athletes' grades throughout the semester. We have tutoring available to the student athletes, especially for our first year players. We require them to do study hall as well. So for us, the academic part is really important. Both of us having coached at some of the highest levels of the game in the country, we know that the majority of players who come through U Sport are going to have to use their degree when they're done. So as much as we like winning and that's something we try to do in our program, our ultimate goal is to make sure you get through school successfully and you're prepared for life after you finish university. So the university is great at also supplying support as well. So we have an academic advisor that works with just of our student athletes, um, and all of our student athletes get to register for all their courses before the rest of the student population, so that they can avoid conflicts between class and soccer.
Dominic, is it free, the tutoring, or is there a fee for it?
Yeah, we normally cover the tutoring.
Okay. All right. Okay, Naya, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hi, coaches. My name is Naya, and my question is, what is expected of the players in an away tournament?
Dom, she might have broken up. So, Naya, do you want to just repeat the question again, please?
Yeah. I said, what is expected of the players when on an away tournament?
Okay. You got that, Dom?
Yeah, so I think if I heard that correctly, what are the expectations of players when they're away from a home? So an away game, is that perfect?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, there we broke up a little bit both times, so just making sure. Look, it's pretty simple. We're there to play soccer, so we're there to do a job, and so ultimately, it's the player's job to prepare properly to play a game. So we we have a saying on our team: it's eat, sleep, rest, repeat. So that's what our players do. Usually, we travel up the day before of our game. So if we play Saturday, Sunday, we're driving up on the Friday. We'll stop for a meal, get into the hotel, hang out, and just relax and get ready to play. Saturdays, a little bit more active. You get the players up and moving in the morning. They may have treatment with our athletic therapy team, or they may be using the game ready to prepare. Then we usually get off and play in the afternoon. And then after the game, it's all about recovering as quickly as we can. And it's not ideal, but we normally play 2 games back to back, Saturday, Sunday. So everything we do from the minute the game's over until we kick off the next day is about recovering. So ice baths and getting food in right away, and just kind of repeating the process from the day before, and then playing our game on the Sunday and waiting for Kwesi's team to play, and then go home.
Okay. Victoria, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, what do you look for in a goalkeeper, and like, what is the training like for them?
Yeah, so on our side, we look for players that are very clean in everything they do. Um, our goalkeeper coach always drills in my head that those upper 90 saves that goalies always train for. The reality is that you're probably going to maybe make one of those saves or be asked to make one of those saves once a season. So what we're looking for is consistency in the simple things, the basics: catching, passing, playing out from the back, throwing out. Just keeping those things nice and solid and consistent is what we're looking for. So on our team, we have a goalkeeper coach. His name's Aaron Falsetto. He's actually the goalkeeper coach at OSU, which is another local club here. And he works with our goalkeepers at least 4 times a week in season. And then we have we're very fortunate that one of my assistant coaches, Jasmine Phillips, was also a goalkeeper. She actually was part of the youth national team. So if Aaron can't come to training, then Jazz steps in and does goalie sessions with our goalkeepers. So there's generally always someone at training that'll be able to work with our goalkeepers.
Okay. Micaiah, you have a question?
Hi, my name is Micaiah Gill. I'm the 06 CSO boys, and I have a question. So for fullbacks, right? Like, what kind of position do they play on the pitch? Like, are they playing like attacking kind of position or defensive kind of position? how do they play on the pitch?
Oh, that's a good question. I play a 3-5-2. So my fullbacks, my fullbacks are wingbacks, or my fullbacks play the center back role, right? So it really depends. So to kind of answer your question, I mean, we have left backs that play in that wing back position for us, and then depending on the opposition we're playing against, I would require them to be more defensive, right? However, I also use wide players like natural wingers as my wing backs as well, and depending on the opposition, I would have them play more attacking minded. So depending on what your strength is within that position and what your skill set is how I would utilize you within my team, right? So I wouldn't try to conform you to what we are trying to do, but if your strength is to go forward, then for that potential game that we're playing, then you would take up that same responsibility and you'd be looking to attack, and then I would make adjustments with other players. So whether it be my 6 who slides over to be a little more defensive to provide cover, or it could be our left center back who's now sliding over to provide cover in that respect. So if you're a more defensive fullback, I would never really demand of you to get forward because that's not your strength, right? I would find a way to work it within my system of play and what we're looking to accomplish that day.
Kwesi, that's a great picture, because it's important that the players are starting to understand here at Pickering what the numbers are in the position. So when you use the numbers, they're understanding what you're saying. So it's really good, because when you tell them to tuck in or on the opposite side, the players are starting to understand that here at the club. So that's great. But I'm going to elaborate or ask a question if I can before Jonathan does. So now that you're playing 3-5-2, Dom, are you playing 4-3-3? Okay, so Kwesi, this is going to come down to you first, I guess. If you're going to play 3-5-2, the fitness level and the speed of the game at the university level is much higher. So if I'm having the players run 5Ks, are you guys running 5K times or anything like that?
We're not necessarily running 5K times, but there's a certain level of testing that is required for our players. I mean, we play a 3-5-2, but we also look to attempt to press for the 90 minutes as well. So it's a very high intensity, high level play, right? And our training camp is no joke, very serious, and we maintain certain levels of fitness throughout the entire year in order for us to play that way.
Okay, so can you give us an idea of analysis stat that you do for sports science to determine where the player's fitness level is? Like, do you have a measurement that you can give information to the player so they can compare themselves if they're in grade 8 to grade 12? It's a big broadened viewpoint for all the players, but to give the players an idea that are getting to 16, 17, 18 and think that, oh, you know what, I'll just start working on my fitness 2 months before I got to show up at Carleton, so that they understand this is a long process. So can you give them a measurement that they can use?
Well, I'm trying to think what we could use to measure that.
I mean, on the women's side, like I know.
Yeah, I think Dom will be able to speak about it a little bit more.
Yeah, so we our players are required to come in at a certain level of fitness. So we use the Yoyo Intermittent Recovery Test Level 2, which is what a lot of professional teams use in terms of measuring their fitness levels. So our players have to come in and meet a standard of 17.1.
17. Sorry, say it again, Dom.
17.1.
17.1. Okay, good. Because so when we're going to be using the Yoyo test, that's coming. Okay, when we get back onto, because the kids are required right now 5K 21, and they've got to try to get it down to 5K 18 minutes, right? So Yoyo will come into that, and 17 is the mark that you want to understand. Of course, players who are 13 years of age have a different lung capacity than those that are 17, 18. But as you get closer and closer to the next level, you've got to be able to meet it. And I think it's important that they hear it from you as university coaches, because hearing it from their own coaches, they might go through one ear and out the other. Okay, Jonathan, I'm going to let Naya go first. Naya, do you want to have your question?
It's my brother.
Okay.
Hi, coaches. My name is Isaiah, and I was wondering, what time of the day does your team typically practice?
Okay, that's a good question. So we do differ between our men's and women's programs. So I can, on average, our men's team, we can train anywhere from 3:30 in the afternoon to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? But it's never late at night for us, and it's never too early in the morning. But we normally practice anywhere between mid to late afternoons, and that gives us time to also do video analysis before training sessions, or some minor activation in our HPC before sessions as well. So, we do fill out the day, but normally we train in the middle of the day, or late afternoon sometimes.
I'm going to have to start pushing the kids harder, Kwesi, if you guys are doing it in the middle of the day at 1:30 for the sun that's going to be out. So I'll have to keep in mind now to change the program around when it goes to high pressing, 90 minutes, 3-5-2, wingbacks moving up and down, tucking in. I'm going to have to start thinking about helping the kids out a little bit more. Jonathan, Jonathan, your question.
So I'm sorry. I was gonna ask what is the fitness requirements, but Coach Dave kind of took my question there.
So the word I would use is probably extreme now, Jonathan.
Yeah,
right?
and I think there's a couple other things to add too. Like, we have a phenomenal high performance center. We have a number of full-time staff that work with our student athletes, and so yes, we use the intermittent recovery test as a measurement, but they're measuring everything, like 20 meters, 40 meters, your broad jump. There's a lot of sports science that goes behind every student athlete as well, and we track that over the 4 years. It's not just a month over month thing. So the program's really built in 6 weeks blocks, and Kwesi and I get reporting every 6 weeks on the players and how they're doing. So we want to see that kind of progression over 4 years. We know a first year player is not going to be the same as a fourth year player. They've been through our program.
Okay. And the other element too, I just want to add, just to quickly add to that. So just in terms of the level of fitness that we're talking about, I mean, our season is also extremely demanding. You're talking about, on average between preseason, regular season, and postseason, you can be playing 25 games in 3 months, which with also games on a Saturday and a Sunday, meaning that you're playing, 180 minutes back-to-back games, right? Some of our players are doing that. So if you pick up any kind of niggly injury, it's very difficult to recover from that and continue playing in the regular season. So as Dom indicated, we do take, the training elements, the fitness elements of it very seriously, because we want our players to last. We want to have access to all of our players for every match.
No, that's a great point, Kwesi, because I don't think they understand how much it takes 24, 48 hours in between games to even get some proper recovery, and the fact of you guys having such a demanding schedule, and plus the fact that you travel probably more than most schools do. So, taking those into consideration. Okay, there's nobody else that's asking the question yet. So I'm gonna ask one to help the conversation go. And my question would be to you is, what are your roster numbers so that they have a comparison to the previous coaches that have presented their programs? So what's your roster like, and how do the players travel? How many number of players travel? What do you do with the players at home that do not dress? Are they involved? Are they not involved? Are they in the stands, or are they in the press box like one other coach said? So I just want to give them the opportunity to see a comparison between your school and everyone else.
Yeah, so on the women's side, we normally carry about 28 players that are active on the roster. There are sometimes players who are coming back from like an ACL injury. We have 2 right now, for example, that they're kind of working back to fitness and working with us and our strength and conditioning team and our athletic therapy team to recover. We normally are in the 28 player range. In terms of travel, we normally travel with 20 players to an away game. And really all of our players at all times are involved. If you're not playing, that doesn't mean you're not part of the team. It doesn't mean that you're not involved. It doesn't mean that you can help us win the game. So a lot of our players are involved pregame. They still come to the pregame meetings, and they're fully involved up until kind of we go to play. And then sometimes a lot of our players will come down at halftime and you know encourage some of the other players on our team, and then sometimes they have great points that they see that they can pass on to their teammates as well. We do have a coach that sits up in the press box as well for us that relays information throughout the game. But ultimately, on our team, everybody's involved and invested at all times.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, just to add a little bit to that, on the men's side, I mean, we fluctuate anywhere between 24 and 28 on a roster, depending on the year. Travel with same number as Don was indicating, around 20, 22 players. One of the differences I will admit is that on Fridays, it's normally when we give the lineup, right, particularly for playing at home. So we'll say the 18 players who are dressing, plus 2 more. So we'll give 20 players. Everybody shows up on the Saturday, and then when they walk in the dressing room, you'll have the 18 who are dressing. The players who are not dressing on that day, they can come and attend all the team meetings and the video sessions and the talks that we'd have. They're not required to, but we definitely want to keep them engaged if they want to come out. And then obviously during the game, they do sit up in the press box for our home games.
Okay. So William, you have a question.
Hello, coaches. I'm William from the 06 CSL team. And I was just wondering if the rookies get the same playing opportunities as like the seniors, or if you expect more from them or less from them.
That's a great question. I think it's always good to know where you stand, particularly coming into a program. And for me, we work in a competitive environment, right? For me, if you're a first-year player and you're coming in and you're better than my fifth-year player, then you will play. It's simple as that, right? But you have to be able to show that, every day in training, and then obviously show the results in the match, right? And if you're capable of doing that, then you'll be ahead of the players that I currently have. I think your environment is what dictates that. So all of my athletes are aware of that. They know that. So it creates a very competitive environment. Everybody's always fighting for positions, but I like to always look at an opportunity for players, right? Players always need an opportunity to show. So we try to do that very early in the season to see where players stand, and then obviously they work themselves out throughout the year. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're a better player, on the day, then you play.
Okay. Dante, you have a question?
Can you describe the relationship between the coaches and the players?
That's a good question. I think it depends upon the coach's style, but for me personally, I'm a very personable individual. I like to know my players inside and out, right? So I have great relationships with my players both on the field and off the field. Because I am on campus, that's my full time, so I am there all the time. I do get an opportunity to interact with my players, not just in a training capacity, but just in, they stop by, we chat about life, we chat about family. But what the great thing is that we all have a mutual respect that, on the field, I'm coach, they're my players, and I interact with them differently. Off the field, they still know that they can come to me and we can have conversations and engage. So I think relationship is key and essential to any successful environment, and we strive to ensure that everybody feels welcomed and everybody feels that they have the opportunity to chat with coaches as necessary.
Tom, were you able to hear Kwesi's info, or did it break up?
No, I was able to hear it okay.
Okay, good. Okay. So I'll wait for some more to think about their questions and so forth. So I've been working with the coaches to work a really different culture at the club, right? So for the past 22 months, of which, of course, 1 year is in COVID in isolation, but I have to tell you how proud I am of the coaches that I have now and with the players. I mean, it is been a partnership between the players and the coaches on how we're approaching and what we want to achieve, not only as individual coaches, but for each of the players to move on and not see soccer as wins or losses, and that's either they're a good person or not based on the wins and losses. But what I wanted to ask you is, how important is it to you about the players that are on the bench, the atmosphere? I'm not going to elaborate because I'd like you guys to tell us if there's any importance that you place on the bench during the game or otherwise.
Yeah, we on the women's side, and I'll steal something from John Herdman, who I think coined it perfectly. We don't call our players substitutes; we call them finishers.
Finishers, yeah.
Right, and so I think everybody's got a role on our team, and sometimes, like Kwesi said earlier, it's just based on the characteristics that they have and what's required in that game. So somebody, may be playing 90 minutes on a Saturday, and the game on the Sunday doesn't call for their skill set, and so they may not play. And so I think our players understand that. But secondly, for me, the culture of the program is more important than anything. So, what do we stand for? And on the women's side, we have 6 kind of key values that our players kind of live and work towards every day. And things can be as simple as being resilient or hardworking, and it's an exercise we go with through the players every year, and they can change those kind of values of the program. And so for us, that kind of sets the tone and the culture of how we want to be as a program, year in and year out. So I think it's the players understand that it's a competitive environment, and that some days they're going to play and some days they're not. But ultimately, we keep saying to them that it's more than soccer. We value the person in our program over the player you are. And for us as coaches, we're just trying to develop you as a person. And that'll mean some adversity and some great moments over your time at the university. But we're here to support you as coaches and to kind of guide you through that.
Okay. Kwesi, anything?
Yeah, I mean, Dom hit the nail on the head. I mean, we look at the player beyond the game. I mean, it's more about all encompassing. It's all about the individual. It's all about the person and within the team. So on the men's side, so we put a lot of emphasis on valuing the roles of every single player, whether you play 90 minutes all the time, whether you're coming off the bench, or whether you're a guy that doesn't dress on a regular basis. We always put emphasis on everybody's role is critical to our team's success. We also talk a lot about in order for us to be successful, everybody coming to the team has to give up a little bit of individuality for us to be successful. You have to give up a little bit for the team, right? And we stress that from day one. And then the other element that Don talked about with regards to the substitutes, he kind of broke up when he was speaking, so I wasn't quite sure what he indicated. But for us, we don't refer to them as subs. We refer to them as impact players, because you're either coming into the game to win the game, to secure the game, to give us a bit of a spark. So at no point, if you're coming from off the bench, that your role is just for minutes, right? I never like the term minutes. I'm always about, productive minutes, right? How are you coming in? How are you going to influence the match? And that's what we look for. I mean, even when we're evaluating players for the next game, what was your demeanor coming into that game? How did you raise the team? How did you help solidify the win? Or for example, in some cases, we're up by quite a few goals. And in this case, the players coming onto the pitch, well, I didn't tell you not to score, right? Go and score your goals, right? Go fill the net. Show me that, you want to be on the 11 the next game. So, it's also very important that every player, values their role on the team and understands that, every player that we have, from the 26th player, right down to the number one guy on the team, everybody's just as valuable as the next.
Okay. So we're coming up to the top of the hour, and what I wanted to ask that maybe we didn't reiterate is the kids understand, and I understand that there's $4,500 max that any student can receive in financial aid from the athletic department. And of course, there is funding based on their academics that they can pick up. They can get win bursaries or apply for bursaries and so on.
No.
So what I wanted to find out was
A lot of your
what is the amount of money that you guys have available from the athletic department towards student athletes?
So I can speak this a little bit more. So you're referring to the overall, I guess, envelope that we work with?
Yeah, the overall budget that you would have, say on a yearly basis, and not the fact of how much you give to each player, but give them an example of how they could compare if they were deciding to go between Carleton and Waterloo. What would they be looking at in the sense of, what's the commitment from the athletic department towards your budget to help student athletes?
Yeah, so I mean, I could definitely say that Carleton University has done a great job at ensuring that what we have available for our student athletes is definitely comparable, if not the most competitive in the country and the province. And on any given year, I don't want to say it ranges, but like for example, Don has a very young team right now, so there might be a little bit more funding for him available. But for my program, a lot of my guys are senior players, so they are taking up quite a bit of my funding. But just to kind of give you a sense, ballpark-wise, I mean, we're working roughly with like $45,000 a year in terms of what we're looking at from a scholarship perspective within our program. How much each individual player receives is obviously up to the discretion of the coach. But as mentioned, for me, a lot of my players are seniors, so I normally tend to give, my seniors who have been consistent, who have been reliable, committed to the program. I try to make sure that they're well taken care of coming into their senior years. And obviously, first year kids that we feel like are going to make a massive impact in our program, then we'll look at giving them as much as possible or the ability to build it up. Obviously, I know you. Sorry, go ahead, David. Continue.
I was thinking just to ask, I can ask as a parent as well, is when you're looking at it, it's on a yearly basis, right? So it's based on performance, or is it a guaranteed throughout the 4 years?
So that is where we have a lot of flexibility. So, for example, I have players who I've committed to for 1 year. So I'll say I'll commit to you your first year, $3,000. But I have other players as well that I've committed over 3 years, 4 years. And I said, I'm going to commit to you $4,000 every year of your studies, right? Okay. And that's just up to my discretion, right? Dom has the same flexibility, but it all depends on the player, the status of the player, and what we feel that player will give to our program over those years.
Okay. And one other question that I would have is, how do you base on recommendations about players and how your conversations go? I think the players need to understand that they're always on show, and that how do you guys do their background checks? How do you do their social media checks? How do you get recommendations? Who do you look for getting recommendations on players? So how do you see that so that they understand?
Yeah, so from my end, it's people I know, obviously, right? I've been doing this for over 20 years. So if you're playing in a club in Ontario, chances are I know somebody in the club, and so we're certainly asking questions about you. More so, I think, as a person. I think as coaches, we're always going to try and rely on our assessment of players if we can get out and watch them play. But really, what I need to find out is, will you fit into our environment, into our culture? And for me too, we look at little things, warm up of a game. Like, how do you warm up, and what does that look like? And when you turn over possession of the ball, if you're throwing your hands up instead of, closing a player down, what does that look like? That says a lot about your character as a person. And so for my program, we're looking to bring in high character people. So, that's what we do. I think the other thing as well is, I think a lot of players get a false sense of security when they're on campus on a visit. I think a lot of players think at that point, well, I've made it here. The university is really interested, and this is going to be smooth sailing from this point on. It's quite the opposite. I think as much as you're evaluating us, we're actually evaluating you as well. A quick story, I had a player visit with us from the Toronto area, and she took 2 phone calls in the middle of our campus tour, and went on and talked for 10 minutes on one of the calls as we were waiting to continue the tour. So for us, that's not a player we're going to recruit. That's not the type of player we're looking at. And so I think it's just important to know that, Dave, like you said, you're always, on the showcase. You're always being evaluated, whether it's at your club in the university environment. So you've got to be spot on at all times.
Okay. Kwesi, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that too as well. So as you mentioned, Dave, I mean, we're always evaluating. So I do look at social media. I look at all of it. If you have an account, I will find it and I will look. Obviously, we get, I take into consideration the reference letters that are provided, whether it be from your head coach, from your club technical director. But then I also go and search out some of your opposition coaches and get them to give me if they remember you, or they can give me give me 2 points about this player if you remember playing them, right? Because I think it's always a different perspective when you hear it from somebody else. Yeah. I may even ask other coaches in the club who don't directly work with you, but see you in glimpses, right? Just see you in passing, see if you're, are you the last one helping picking up the equipment, or how are you engaging with your teammates, right? So, you try to get information from individuals that you wouldn't expect, right? That you would never expect. And another one I look at too as well, and this is what I only recently started doing, particularly when I'm having my campus tours, or if I'm in Zoom calls such as this one, is how you interact with your family. I've been on a number of meetings now with players and parents, and they bring their siblings on the tours, and it's just always very interesting to see what that relationship is like with your younger brother or younger sister, or with your mom and your dad. How are you speaking with your mom and dad? How are you responding? I think that's a very interesting dynamic, and you can see a lot about a person in terms of how they value that relationship with their family. So I take that into consideration as well when I'm evaluating a player.
Okay. I think those are some great insights, so the players are hearing it from the next level. And so I'd like to leave the last opportunity for each of you, if you want to say anything to the players before we come to an end. So I'll leave the last sentences or points that you want to make to the players.
Yeah, so for me, I think just quickly, I know it's been a challenging time over the last year with COVID and all the restrictions. We actually we play in the Quebec League in the winter, both Kwesi's team and mine, and our last game was actually a year ago today. So it's been a full 12 months since we've played a competitive game. So I think, just really use what's gone on in the last, year as a learning opportunity. From my end, we're going to see what type of player you are. Either you're a player that has done the work during COVID and tried to stay in shape and ready to play, or you're not. And so I think evaluating players coming out of this pandemic is going to be, one, interesting, but two, telling, because it's going to tell us a lot about you as an individual and as a player. And so use this time that you have. Is probably going to be maybe a few more months before we get to what we'll call normal life again, and try to use this time as best as you can to improve yourself.
Okay.
And just from my end, first of all, I want to say the questions that were asked today were fantastic questions. I mean, I wish a lot of some other recruits I had would ask me those questions. I feel like at times when you're looking to evaluate a school or a program, that's truly your opportunity to really kick the tires, to really get a good understanding of if that program, that university in that city or town is the right fit for you. At times, players have this mentality where they're just looking at the results from the previous year and the wins and the losses, And that is not a true indication of what the program's capacity is to grow you as an individual. So I think you got to look at the production capabilities of the program. You know, if I go to this program, is it going to challenge me athletically? Is it going to challenge me academically? Is it going to be the lifestyle that I want to be living? So, you know, whether it be, you know, Ottawa, it's kind of like a small city. Toronto's, you know, GTA is big, you know, so there's a definite difference there in terms of life and living. So those are all factors that you should be considering when you're evaluating a program at a university. And the biggest thing for me is enjoy it, right? It's an incredible process. It's a fun process. Hopefully you only have to do it once. But as much as we are evaluating you as a player, I mean, you're evaluating us as coaches and evaluating our program. So enjoy it, you know, take your time, right? And again, just, you know, want to say thank you very much for having us on the call today.
Dom, Kwesi, it's more of my thanks for you guys to coming online with us and taking the time after, you know, been out all day, and the insights you've given into your own program, but the insights as looking at the players as people is refreshing. It's no questions were prepared in advance by me or any of the coaches. These are questions that the players are getting, and to me, that's an insight of what we're trying to do. I hope that we can call you, or the players can call you, to let you know when we're coming into town. And I'd also like to have the opportunity to create a team of players that have the potential to be seen on a different scale than just their own teams, and come into Ottawa and maybe play your first year players or second year players, or wherever we think that would allow us to have a competition against someone that you can evaluate the players. And I appreciate that, and would look forward to that every spring if we can do that. So hopefully we can arrange that. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to really educating the players, and it's very much appreciated. And if I can ever do a return a favor, please just give me a call and I'd be happy to do that.
Again, thank you for having us, and for me personally, I thank you for accepting my my lack of technical ability on this call today. I mean, it's part of the game. We adjust as anything else, and you've done great to adapt. But again, just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you so much. Like I said earlier, it's always an honor to speak to groups and give them a little bit more information about Carleton. And I will say I told you about Kwesi's technological. Anyway, but thanks again, everybody.